Big thing, like you're talking about, the receiving game is where you really just aren't 100% positive on how this thing is going to play out. As of right now, we kind of know that Paris Campbell is the H-back. So I have him leading the team in receptions and receiving yards with 47 catches for 601 yards and 8 touchdowns. Nothing spectacular there, but I really think the way it's set up right now, as much as I want KJ Hill moved to the outside, right now KJ Hill's still in that H-back spot. And I really think that Paris Campbell and KJ Hill are going to kind of tag team that quite a bit. KJ Hill, I've got him tacking on 31 catches for 422 yards and 4 touchdowns. So when you look at them combined, 78 catches, 1,023 yards, and 12 touchdowns from that H-back spot, I think that's pretty realistic for the two, because I think they will be playing outside in some cases too. So it's not purely from the H-back spot, but I think those two will make up most of the receiving game this year, just like Curtis Samuel did last year. On the outside, I think it's going to be another split thing. As much as we've talked about before, I really do not like how much the Buckeyes rotate people at the wide receiver spot. I just think it's going to happen again this year. So Johnny Dixon and Ben Victor, I think, will be the starters. I got Johnny Dixon with 347 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. Ben Victor, 416 yards, but 9 touchdowns. I think he'll be that kind of red zone threat that they can get to him. Even if he isn't a consistent 5-6 catch guy per game, I think once they get inside the 20, I think Victor's going to be a pretty good mismatch there. So they will be splitting time out there with Trayvon Grimes, Austin Mack, Terry McLaurin. Out of those guys, I think Grimes has the best season with 345 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, so that's kind of how the wide receivers, I think, will shape out. No numbers are going to jump out at you. As I was talking about with Tony, the more that I research this type of stuff, the more excited I am more about next year's offense than I am this year's. Guys like Ben Victor and Trayvon Grimes and, Paris Campbell might be back, and McCall and J.K. Dobbins. There's a lot of talent that's going to be sitting there next year for Dwayne Haskins or Joe Burrow. And I think the offense for 2018 is going to be one of the best that we've seen ever for the Buckeyes. This year is going to be very good. But I don't think there's going to be anyone outside of JT Barrett where their stats kind of jump out at you, because there's going to be so much of a rotation for everyone.
So for anybody who sees these numbers and just wants to pull their hair out and jump all over Brandon, the first thing is that's what we do. We give analysis, and hopefully you enjoy it. And hey, we're wide open for the discussion, the debate. That's what we're used to. That's no problem there. But before you do that and then have numbers in your head and then forget about them come January 1st and then jump all over him again next year, go through this practice yourself, especially with this wide receiver core, and see how difficult this is, because this is not easy. I do see that, as you mentioned, Benjamin Victor, 26 for 9 touchdowns. He's like the new Devin Smith in that one year he had. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I used to have him up there like 35 and 12 or whatever he had that one particular year for the Buckeyes, where everything he caught, especially down the stretch, was a touchdown. Have you ever done this before, Brandon?
I did it last year too for the other site that I worked for. Honestly, didn't go back and look to see how wrong I was. So, I try to be more realistic with them. I think a lot of Buckeye fans that have read these kind of feel like a lot of the stats are lower than what they should be. And I will admit, I try to take more of a cautious route to this. I think it's very realistic when you look at the offensive numbers and total yards and rushing yards and passing yards from last year. You can't just make a giant jump. You've got to kind of ease into it. Like I said, I think next year's the year where there's going to be some pretty good stats out there. Guys like Ben Victor, I think next year could be become a dominant wide receiver. But this year it's going to be more like, just like you said, where Devin Smith, when he was like freshman and sophomore, where he's going to make big plays. He's going to, do things that wow you, but he's not going to be a consistent threat throughout the entire game or throughout the entire season. I think that's going to be falling more on like KJ Hill and Paris Campbell. And really, the biggest thing that people have had heartburn with this is the fact that I have McCall at the running back spot and not the H-back spot. I know the Twitter fan base has been saying that he's an H-back for, the past year, but until the coaching staff comes out and actually moves him, and they've actually came out and said that he's staying at the running back spot, who knows what happens during fall camp. He could be moved out there, but until that time, I'm leaving him at the running back spot, which means he's ahead of guys like J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Williams, and he's going to get the carries. So if he moves out to H-back, these stats are all thrown out the window, and we can go back to the drawing board and kind of figure it out. Also, if KJ Hill moves to the outside, which I really hope that he does, that's going to throw a kink into things too, because I really think KJ Hill is their best wide receiver on the team. And I would easily have him as my top pass catcher if he was a starter, if he was on the outside. So, this is just where we're sitting at right now before fall camp. It's something fun to do. It's really fun to kind of sit down and break these down and kind of figure out what's going to happen.
Well, I do guarantee that your offensive projections are closer than the guy that wrote me a couple days ago and said that Florida is going to beat Michigan 100-10. So I'm going to make that guarantee.
I wouldn't mind that score, though.
Yeah, I know that I'm talking to a fan base that wouldn't mind seeing a 90-point Florida win, unless you're kind of a defender of the Big Ten regardless. And I'm guessing most Buckeye fans love to see the Big Ten win outside of conference, except for the team up north. But so I'm guessing you're a little bit more on the money, and I think that guys are going to catch passes in numbers, so one guy is not going to stand out among the rest, and that's the way it's been in Urban Meyer offenses, and there's no reason to believe that it's not going to be the same because of the lack of star power, his approach, and also because of what we saw last year. And there's going to be improvement. I don't think there's any question how much improvement. That's going to be key to see whether this team just has a really good season like they typically do, or possibly win a national championship. This could be the group that decides it.
Yep, very much so. And another writer on our site, Mike Meals, wrote a great article earlier this week about, is Coach Smith, the wide receiver coach, on the hot seat this year? Because this wide receiver group has struggled quite a bit over the past couple years. And you look at guys like Michael Thomas, have okay years, but not dominant years, and then go on to the NFL and just, have a great season. So you've seen this with quite a few wide receivers go on to the pros and do a lot better than they did when they were with the Buckeyes. And it's always been kind of the debate among the fan base is this Smith, or was this the play calling from Tim Beck and Warner, where it's simplified schemes and stuff? I think this is a huge year for him because he doesn't have that, fallback anymore. Kevin Wilson, Ryan Day, two very proven offensive coaches. If the wide receivers struggle this year, it's completely on him. So it's a huge year for him. It's a huge year for the wide receivers. Once again, the defense is going to carry the Buckeyes. I think the offense is going to do a lot better this year of being able to help out the defense. I don't think we'll see any game this year where it's like the Clemson game where the defense was dominant, and the offense would go out there and go 3 and out, and defense just had to go straight back out there. I think this will be a lot better year for the offense, but like I said, this year is going to be nothing compared to how I think the offense will be next year.
All right, it's Buckeyes Breakdown. We come your way every Wednesday night with Brandon Zimmerman from the ozone.net, so you get some indication based on this analysis and elsewhere that there's some really good stuff there. So check him out on the ozone.net. And I've got college football covered at Mark Rogers TV as well. All right, Brandon, good discussion. I'll enjoy possibly, maybe I'll give this a shot myself. We'll see. But
All right.
I enjoy the projections, and we'll get together soon.
All right, Mark.